wasn't so much just because I'm a geek and I like to play with things, but because I noticed a trend about, well, almost 7 years ago now of finding digital resources was a great way to enhance my curriculum, enhance my students' learning opportunities. Let me hide that other screen now. Ooh, sorry about that. So the question is, why change? Why would we go from a textbook that's been peer reviewed and been tested in many ways to digital format? The very basic way of changing is to just take the textbook we already have and put it into a PDF and put it online and say, oh, now we have a digital curriculum. But that's not really changing anything. It's not improving our students' learning opportunities and learning experiences. I think there's a few reasons why we should make this change, and the first one is just the accessibility and portability of information. And I don't mean just the fact that now kids don't have to lug around a 15-pound textbook in their backpack. Although that is a valid reason to get rid of textbooks, is you don't have to carry that around. But the accessibility of information that's relevant to our classrooms. Teaching in Maine, the textbooks aren't generally crafted towards Maine standards or Maine's statewide curriculum goals because we're not a huge market for textbook manufacturers. But by using digital resources, we're able to, at least in my school, we're able to supplement the textbook and craft resources that do align with our curriculum goals a little bit better than the standard textbook does. And the other reason to change is that we're making our content accessible to students across a variety of mediums. For the student who learns better through watching a video or through listening to a podcast or performing a virtual or a digital manipulative, we can address all of their learning styles. And the accessibility piece of it goes beyond just the learning styles, but the actual act of manipulating resources online. The image you see right now is the logo for a web browser called the Dolphin browser. The Dolphin browser is a web browser that has gesture-enabled browsing. So if you tried it out on an Android tablet, for example, you could draw the letter F and move your page forward, or you could draw a V backwards or forwards, or you can set custom drawings on the web browser. So any student, even if you can't manipulate the keyboard, if you touch the screen, you can browse the web. And they've also recently introduced the option to give voice commands. So that's just another way that information has become accessible to more people in the last few years. And digital format doesn't mean that just because it's online it means it has to be read or watched. There are a lot of virtual manipulatives out there now. Wolfram Alpha produces some fantastic virtual manipulatives for mathematics lessons, so we can really engage students in a variety of learning styles. And as I mentioned, here's the textbook that my classroom used for the last 8 years. This is the standard, the Americans textbook. This particular copy had a copyright date of 1999, so it's 13 years old and still kicking around our school in a lot of book bags. And I stopped giving it out to students a few years back because I used it in the classroom as a baseline, but really I decided that I could deliver more meaningful resources to my students over the web. And so the approach to customizing or adapting your digital curriculum, the reality of it is that a lot of us don't have time in our teaching day to generate our own brand new textbook. It's a full-time job to develop that type of content. But what we can do is we can modify the materials we already have, or we can supplement the materials we already have. And a couple of tools that are out there for this right now, the iBooks Author, which got a lot of press back in January, Apple's new authoring program, which enables you to add in hyperlinked writing, to add in videos, to add in audio clips. But unfortunately, it's only available to people who have Apple's latest operating system. And that is a small portion of the population right now. Another tool that you can accomplish very similar things with is a tool called simplebooklet.com, which is an online tool for, again, creating online booklets that include text, include hyperlinked writing, include images and audio files and video files. And it doesn't have to necessarily be just the teacher developing this material or a curriculum committee developing this material. We could have our students work together to create their own reference resources and work together throughout the course of the year to develop materials that they think are relevant to their learning experience. Or perhaps if I have found 5 or 6 different things on the web that I want my students to review, and they pick the one or the two that's the best for them, and they can develop their own individualized reference book throughout the course of the year. So what does a digital curriculum actually look like? Well, digital curriculum can be just about anything we want it to be. That's the real beauty of the web right now, is that we're in this phase in education where things are changing all the time. And so what does a digital curriculum look like? That's kind of up to us in our own classrooms, in our own schools, in our own districts, states, whatever jurisdiction you want to put on it. We can decide what that digital curriculum is going to look like. And yes, there are people like Khan Academy who are trying to publish a huge volume of digital curriculum. And I'm not going to get into a debate on Khan Academy right now. But the fact of the matter is that they have taken advantage of what the web has to offer in terms of delivering content and delivering short lessons online. And Khan Academy, which, as I'm sure everyone knows, started out on YouTube and now has exercises that students can walk themselves through and track themselves as they go through the various lessons. And there's nothing fancy about the equipment that's used in Khan Academy. And we'll talk about some of the tools that we can use for making our own short lessons a bit later. I recently had the opportunity to meet with some people at the Discovery Education headquarters, and they're offering a new service called their Digital Tech Book, T-E-C-H, kind of a play on the textbook word. And this is another approach to developing digital curriculum. And of course, Discovery is trying to sell this. And by the way, I'm not getting any benefit out of promoting it right now. But they are exploring what I think is a pretty good model of including what I would call a choose-your-own-adventure model for digital textbooks, and that students can select the activity that will best suit their learning style, or the teacher can direct them to a particular activity within the textbook itself. So it's not just a simple read these 5 pages, answer the 5 questions. The kind of typical textbook format has been thrown out the window. And of course, because digital curriculum is in flux and it is changing, and we as teachers have the ability to say what digital curriculum is going to look like in the future. I encourage everyone to check out Curriki, which you can find at curriki.org. And curriki.org is a great place for educators to share their digital learning materials. Another model for delivering digital curriculum is available through a service called Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y, udemy.com. And they're one of the sponsors of the Faculty Project. The Faculty Project is a series of courses from university professors around the world on a variety of topics in the humanities and mathematics and in science. And it's a good model of how to deliver digital curriculum over the web. And finally, Academic Earth is really just a collection of some great talks available through MIT and through Yale and through other universities, and then and other sources. And it's another example of how the web has kind of democratized learning. The fact that I could go to Academic Earth and follow along on a course from Yale, for example, is something that I would have never dreamed of 15 years ago, being able to sit in on a lecture at Yale. So it's just another model of delivering curriculum. And not every kid is going to sit back and watch a lecture, so we need to keep that in mind, that when we're selecting the materials for our students, we have to select materials that will fit their learning style and fit what it is that they're going to, are they going to sit down and watch a video for 15 minutes, or will they actually watch for a whole hour? And we need to know our students. So just by making our curriculum digital doesn't mean we're automatically going to create something that's engaging. And here's an example of my digital curriculum in practice last spring. Last spring I taught a World Studies course. The World Studies course started in January at just about the same time that all the protests in Egypt erupted, which was a great opportunity for me as a teacher to really explore what it meant to have a living, breathing, constantly changing curriculum. And there aren't any textbooks available about Egypt or about the protests in Egypt. There's plenty of textbooks about Egypt itself, but not what was currently happening in Egypt. And I wasn't an expert on Egypt like everyone else who teaches history. I had my requisite world history courses that addressed all the topics of the history of Egypt, but I was by no means an expert on current events in Egypt. And so it was a learning opportunity for me to learn along with my students. And together we developed, in this case, a blog of things we were discovering and things that we were creating related to Egypt. And what you're seeing right now is a screenshot of one of my students' videos about the protests in Egypt itself and what revolution meant in the Middle East. And I mentioned the idea of having students develop their own reference materials and resource materials. This is a wiki. You're seeing a screenshot, not the actual wiki. Oh, and by the way, all of these images are linked to their sources. So when I publish this slideshow later, you'll be able to click through on the images to go to the direct link itself. So this wiki that we're looking at, every student in my classroom had to pick a topic related to the 1920s. In this case, we were studying the 1920s, done it for other decades and other units in my course. And throughout that unit, they had to update more information about their particular topic. Now, I didn't leave it at that. In order to build a sense of community in the classroom and a sense of responsibility to each other and making the quality of this product better, the students' final quiz on this unit of study was based primarily upon the materials that they had added to the wiki. So rather than just saying, oh, you're going to do this and it's going to be a supplement to the textbook, this actually became the textbook for that particular unit. And as you can see, we were able to add videos to this wiki page. And by adding videos, the students who maybe wouldn't read as much or struggled with their reading ability, this is an 11th grade classroom, can watch the videos and get some concrete examples of what it is that they were reading about. So let's take a look at some tools for building your digital curriculum. And in this section here, I am going to pop out of the slides on a couple of occasions to show you some to show you some examples of some of these tools actually in action. Now, the beauty of the web, and the beauty of the web that we've had for a long time, is the ability to find lots of information very quickly. And if we give students a research topic, the first place that they typically will go is Google. And they'll probably Google whatever question you've asked them, whatever prompt they've been given, they're going to enter that into Google. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except that it can be quite limiting in the search results that students get. And Google doesn't search the whole web. There's a lot of information that is not indexed by Google. I heard a number thrown out by one of the Google research engineers not too long ago. And he said they estimate only about 40% of what's on the web is material that they have actually indexed. So there's other places to look. One of the places that I like to look is the Open Library. If you're looking to build a virtual library for your classroom, the Open Library is a fantastic place to find books that you can embed, you can download, you can redistribute to supplement the material that you have available to you already. And Google Books. There are two versions of Google Books. There's the research side of Google Books, which is a search engine. And there's the Google Books bookstore, where you'll find free books as well as paid books. One of the features I like about Google Books is that I can clip a section of a free book and embed it into my website or embed it into my blog. I'm actually going to pop out of the presentation right here to show you how that works. So if I go to books.google.com, and you notice there are two sides to this. I'm going to use the research section and do a quick search on the Civil War. And I have 12 million results. Fantastic. So I'm going to search for the free Google eBooks. And perhaps I like this book here, The Civil War, The National View. When I open this book, I can scroll through and see whatever content is within this book, because this book has been put in the public domain and it's free to use and reuse accordingly. So I'm going to copy just a small section of this book and I'm going to put it into my classroom blog. So maybe I just want my students to read the introduction from the editor. I'll highlight that section and cut it off right there. And now I have this embed code that I can copy and paste into any of my blogs for my students to go and read that book or that section of the book. And again, you could build that into your own small digital library that complements your instruction and the materials that you already have. And Sweet Search and DuckDuckGo are two other search engines that are designed for elementary and middle school use. Great places to do searches for material that's already been reviewed, material that's been human reviewed for validity, and it will remove things like Wiki Answers or Yahoo Answers, those simple question or eHow, those simple question and answer services that often populate in a traditional Google search. Three other places that I really like to go and look for video content and audio content to add to my digital library for my students. First on the list is Watch Know Learn, which you can find at watchknowlearn.org. And kind of like Sweet Search, which I just mentioned, all of the videos are reviewed by real people for their validity and applicability to classroom use. And Watch Know Learn pulls in videos from YouTube, but they also pull in videos from other sites and other video sharing services. So even if YouTube is blocked in your classroom, there's still a lot of material available on Watch Know Learn that you can use. The Internet Archive, which you can find at archive.org. Again, this is linked all these images are hyperlinked. The Internet Archive has lots of public domain material, both video images and audio files that you can download and reuse and remix to put into your digital library for your own students to use. And Next Vista for Learning is a real model of what I think a great digital video library should be for students. The purpose of Next Vista for Learning is for students to share video lessons with other students and teachers to share video lessons with other teachers. And there's a huge catalog of videos that are archived and organized according to the topics that each student is teaching. So here's an example of what a Next Vista lesson might look like. This is an elementary school lesson.
Richard, this is Greg. I'm having a number of people say that they're having problems hearing this, myself included.
Oh, okay. Let me try. Sorry, Greg. Well, on that note, I apologize for the sound that was not able to come through. But I think you get the idea. It's an example of students sharing videos with other students. And this is obviously an elementary school lesson. And they're not all videos that show kids live on camera. There's a lot of videos that are done in what I would call a Common Craft style. Common Craft is a company that does short explanation videos using nothing more than paper and paper cutouts and a marker. And they're very simple, short lessons on just about anything that you can think of. And I'll give a plug on the Next Vista. If you're looking for ideas for creating video lessons, you want to do a video project in your classroom, but you're not quite sure how to get started, or maybe your students need a little bit of inspiration. Next Vista runs numerous video creation contests arranged around various themes. The last contest that they did was around the theme of community and sharing information about your community and or highlighting a person who has done a good thing for your community. So if you're trying to get into video creation and building up a digital library for yourself or for your classroom, Next Vista is a good place to get some ideas. And if you want to remix images, you want to find some images to build into a digital textbook, one thing that we need to keep in mind is that by default, our students have kind of learned or been trained or have just somehow decided that they're always going to go to Google and do a Google image search, or go to Yahoo Images or Bing Images and do an image search, and we don't always, or they haven't always been taught that they need to cite their source, and they haven't necessarily been taught about copyright, fair use, public domain, Creative Commons. If you're not familiar with Creative Commons is a licensing framework that artists use voluntarily to label their work and say, yes, you can go ahead and reuse this work provided you give me proper attribution according to these guidelines. And there are different levels of Creative Commons licensing. Some licensing says simply, go ahead and reuse it however you want. You can modify the work, and other licensing is slightly more restrictive and says that you can't modify it, but you can reuse it as long as it's not commercial. So if you want to find some images or have your students find images that they can legally reuse without any worry about copyright, you can go to creativecommons.org and do a search in Creative Commons. And kind of on a side note, 2 weeks ago I was in Calgary and giving a workshop up there, and I had never heard of a school actually being sued for a copyright infringement by a student before until then. I won't tell you the name of the school, but there was a school that did receive a bill for $800 for a student project that had reused an image without proper attribution. So it does happen from time to time. A couple of other places where you can find some images available for reuse is the Morgue file and freephoto.com, as well as Flickr's Commons album. On the Flickr Commons, there are thousands of public domain images from sources like NASA, from the Library of Congress, and from other libraries around the world. And Quickie is one example of multimedia reference tools that are available on the web. And since we have a problem with the sound on Next Vista, we may not be able to hear the Quickie sound either. But I'll give you a short example of what it, hopefully give you a short example of what it does. So I'm going to do a quick search on Quickie and type in the word Tibet. And it's going to play a narrated slideshow. And while it looks like it's just a slideshow, I can actually click on any element along the timeline and find out more information about that particular image. And all of these quickies can be embedded into your own website or your own blog or wiki space or whatever wiki platform you want to use. And Quickie has just launched a new Quickie creation service. It's only available right now by invitation, so you have to sign up and wait for an email invitation from Quickie. But your students can build their own multimedia reference slideshows, just like this one, that are narrated. And so hyperlinked writing is probably the simplest way to get started building your own digital curriculum materials. I've already shown you Blogger, and there are other blogging platforms out there that you could also use for your classroom. I've used Blogger because all of my students have Google accounts, and it's very easy to use Blogger if you already have a Google account. But another service you can use is EduBlogs, and I was a big fan of using the Posterous blogging service until 2 weeks ago when they announced they were bought out by Twitter, and they may or may not be getting shut down. We'll see. Yeah. But Blogger is one way that you can have your students build their own digital library. In Wikispaces, I showed you an example of how I've used Wikispaces. Again, a very simple service for creating reference pages that can supplement the materials you already have in your classroom. And Google Docs, I'm actually showing you this presentation through Google Docs presentation tool right now. But again, with Google Docs, it's the power of hyperlinked writing is that we can quickly go from a written passage to the source of that passage. So in the footer of my Google Doc, I could link to the source of my information, which gives me, as a teacher, the opportunity to quickly see if my students plagiarized or not. But just as a reader, as a viewer, if I wanted to find out more information about a particular topic, I can quickly click that link and follow the links along. On a side note, I often get sucked into Wikipedia entries and just jumping from place to place because I'm just curious about certain topics. And I recently discovered a game called the Wikipedia Maze, which is built on that idea of following links and determining how are various topics connected. And Wikipedia is actually a great model of hyperlinked writing. And we could debate the validity of all the content on Wikipedia, but that part aside, it is a good model of hyperlinked writing and the fact that we can quickly link from page to page so that we can explore more information about whatever we're curious about. And Weebly is a free website service that a number of teachers in my school have used to build up their own resource pages. And in my department a couple of years ago, we made the decision that we were going to use Weebly as a department for all of our digital handouts and put all of our digital handouts on a Weebly page so that a student who was in my class and also in one of my colleagues' classes as well could quickly get all the handouts that they would need. And Issue is a free service. If you already have a lot of Word documents or PDF documents that you simply need to put online in digital format, Issuu is a great ISSUU is a great place to do that. And there are different formats for e-reader devices. If you need to read something in a Kindle, or you want to read something on your iPad, .epub is the iPad format. And something to keep in mind about Kindle books is that you don't necessarily have to have a Kindle device to read those Kindle books. They can be right on your desktop. In fact, the computer that I'm using right now, you should be able to see that I have the Kindle desktop app activated. And I don't actually own a Kindle myself right now. I had a Kindle Fire that I gave away, and the Kindle desktop app is the only way that I can read Kindle books right now. So don't think the student necessarily has to have a Kindle device in order to read a Kindle book. .epub and EPUB Reader are two tools that you can use for creating EPUB documents and reading EPUB documents online, even if you don't have an iPad. And Google Maps and Google Earth is another example of hyperlinked writing. The screenshot that you see right now is a simple beginning of a biography of Teddy Roosevelt. And each one of the place marks that's placed on this map contains more information about Teddy Roosevelt's life in that particular place. Each one of the place marks can be popped open to read the text, but also to watch a video, to look at an image, and to follow a link to a source of more information about that aspect of Teddy Roosevelt's life. And a great model for this is Google Lit Trips. You can find it at googlelittrips.org. It's started by a teacher in California who's now retired. But it's a model of using Google Maps and Google Earth to tell a story or retell a story or summarize a story using Google Maps and Google Earth and using the power of hyperlinked writing. And here's a very simple tool that's become quite popular in the last couple of months. It's called ThingLink. I've shown this at a number of workshops in the last 2 months, and every time I've shown it, it's been a huge hit. What ThingLink does is allows you to create interactive images. This particular image is just a screenshot of one of my interactive images. And as you can see, I've put pin marks at the top of Mount Everest here. And each one of those pin marks, when it's activated, will open up a link to read about Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, the first two people to stand on top of Mount Everest. And I can link to any source I want. I can add text. I can link to an image. I can link to a video. And it's a collaborative tool. So if I embed this into my class website, for example, if I make it collaborative and I open up the editing, anyone who comes to that image can add more information about it. So if I had for example, a painting of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I could have each student put a pin mark on a different person and write a short blurb about that particular person and link out to more information. Now maybe that linking out more information could be to something the student wrote. If I had students writing papers in Google Documents, they can publish the Google document as a web page and link to it as part of their thing link image. And so the Khan Academy style lesson, the lesson of someone demonstrating something on a screen and talking about it at the same time, can be accomplished with some very simple software or a very simple program. One program you can use is called Screener. Screener.com is a free web-based service for recording your screen and talking about what's happening on your screen at the same time. An alternative tool that's not web-based is produced by TechSmith. It's called the Jing Project, jing.com. jingproject.com. However, jingproject.com is being phased out over the course of the next year, and everyone will be migrated to TechSmith's other product called Snagit. And Snagit is free. I should say it's a freemium service, which means you can do some things for free, but to take advantage of all the tools of it, you do have to pay to upgrade a little bit. But you can record longer videos, and you can export to multiple formats. And so again, I could record what's happening on my screen. If I was using a whiteboard app on my computer, I could narrate a short lesson. If you're in an iPad school or a school that's using iPads, or you have an iPad of your own and you want to create lessons, there are two tools that I like. EduCreations is one app that's available for free, and you're seeing a screen image right now of EduCreations. Now, as you can see, it's a whiteboard app, and I can talk over the whiteboard. I can talk about the things that I'm drawing on the screen, or I can just simply point at different things that are on my screen. The other tool that's available for free for the iPad is called the Show Me app. The Show Me app recently partnered with Khan Academy to offer some new services as well. And if you want to make your own videos, WeVideo is one of my favorite services right now. WeVideo.com is a collaborative video editing tool. It's a web-based tool, and just like in Google Documents, I can share the project that I'm working on and invite someone else to work with me. WeVideo also recently introduced an Android app that will allow me to edit my videos from my Android phone or my Android tablet. And they have plans for an iPhone, iPad app, but it hasn't been released yet to my knowledge. And Creaza Education is another way that you can make multiple, you can make videos, you can make audio recordings, and publish them and put them into a digital portfolio like a wiki or a blog or a website. Again, as a supplement to your textbook, or if you have the time, as a replacement to a textbook. And what we're going to see here, if the sound cooperates with us, is an example of a tool that's built into YouTube called YouTube Annotations. It's one of the editing features, and will allow you to create choose-your-own-adventure style videos. And what we will see here is that a box will pop up around the signs that these two girls hold up, and you can click to go to either one of your choice of two more videos. And so I can click on those videos, and I click on that caption, and now go to the next video in the series. And again, the same process will happen here as well. And I was actually introduced to this process by one of my colleagues at edtechteacher.org, Greg Kulowick, and he has put together a fantastic series on YouTube of how to create choose-your-own-adventure videos. This is the beginning of his Choose Your Own Adventure video. Again, these are hyperlinked images so that when I publish the slides, you'll be able to see them all. And so when I clicked on that, I was able to go to the next series in his videos. And creating your own creating your own podcast or creating your own audio recordings for use either in a video project or just as an audio file itself can be accomplished with a lot of different tools. One of my favorite tools for mixing and editing multiple tracks is a tool called Aviary. You can find it at aviary.com, and they have a suite of tools that are available for free. A free download is Audacity. Audacity is software available for the PC, also available on Linux. And if you have an Apple computer, you already have access to GarageBand. And GarageBand is a fantastic way to edit your work. And finally, for producing a podcast and hosting those sounds online, two services that I've used in the past and I've been quite happy with are SoundCloud and Podbean, which you can find at podbean.com. So at this point, I do want to put in one other quick plug. I did not put a slide up for this, but a fantastic book that I recently read on the topic of creating digital curriculum and digital media for the classroom. It's called Playing with Media. You can find it at playingwithmedia.com. It's a book written by Wesley Fryer. And it's a fantastic source of ideas for teaching with digital curriculum. And so, Greg, at this point, I think we have 15 minutes and some time for questions.
Oh, yeah, we have had some questions come through. And I want to remind everybody that you'll have access to the slides as well as the actual video that we'll make available. But someone's asking if you can share the names of the iPad tools again.
Yep. I'll actually type them here into the in the chat box. Edu Creations is one, and the other tool is the Show Me app.
Okay.
You can find showmeapp.com. And I just realized that I only sent that to you and not to the whole conference. I apologize.
That's okay. It's going to be in your slides, which we will share with everyone.
Yeah.
Along the same line, someone was asking for the websites about the EPUBs, the sources for the EPUBs.
Okay, so the .EPUB is a tool for converting just about any text-based document into an EPUB format, which can be read on an iPad or any other EPUB-compatible service.
Okay.
And the other one is the EPUB Reader. EPUB Reader is a Firefox extension. So you have to go to the Firefox extension gallery, and you can download it. And you can read your EPUB documents in Firefox. So if you don't have an iPad or other device that accepts EPUB documents, you can still read those files. And likewise, Kindle for PC, which you can find from Amazon, is a desktop application for reading Kindle documents without actually having a Kindle.
Great. Here's a question that came up. Someone asked, and I'm quoting, quote, have you encountered evaluating content versus artistic abilities, end quote.
Yeah, that's a good question, because it is easy to get sucked into the visual effects of some of this material. And one of the things that whenever I have students creating content for example, that wiki project, I require them to outline ahead of time what the message is that they're trying to convey. This is very important if you're doing a video project or a podcast project, because like I said, it's easy to get sucked into, oh, that looks great, but there might not be a whole lot of substance there. So the first thing I do is I make them outline what the objective is for their project. What message are they trying to convey? And the follow-up piece of that, and part of the assessment piece is having classmates evaluate. And the way that I do that is I have the creator of the project write out, these were the goals, this is what you should be able to learn, and then distribute that to the class when they share their project, and have students check off if they understand whatever topic or concept was trying to be conveyed in that project. So that's one way that I've gone about it. The University of Wisconsin has a great, University of Wisconsin Polytechnic has a great series of rubrics for assessing digital projects of all manner, including podcasts, videos, wikis, all kinds of hyperlinked writing projects. And I'll put that link into these slides before I publish the slides in a couple minutes.
Okay, that would be great. Here's, let's see, another question that came up, and people should feel free to chat in their questions through the question portal that we have there for you. This question seems to come up in my mind fairly often. It's people say, all this stuff is great, but I don't know, where should I start? I don't know, what should I do first?
Yep. Yeah, I get that question. I'm asked that quite a bit. And my response to that is pick something that you think you can be comfortable using as a teacher, first of all, and also identifying what your curriculum goals are. That's why for this particular presentation, I started out with simply supplementing the textbook. And that could be, by supplementing the textbook, the simplest way to do it is to start a blog on Blogger or another blogging service, and for each unit that you're teaching, put up supplementary materials like some videos that you have found on a video service, link to a digital activity or a digital article. I think that's the simplest way to get started. Then as you get more comfortable with sharing those materials, transition into creating materials yourself and having students create materials to share as part of a supplement to the textbook, because replacing a textbook overnight is almost an impossible task unless you really have a lot of time on your hands.
Okay, great. Here's someone asking, how are the hyperlinked videos created?
Oh, okay. So in YouTube, YouTube has a service called Annotations. It's one of the editing services. You have to have a YouTube account, and it only works for videos that you own yourself. So you can't link other people's videos. You can only link your own videos that you've uploaded to YouTube. But the service is called Annotations. So if you go into your YouTube account, click on Edit, and then select Annotations. And actually, the video that I showed there with the little sticky note is the beginning of a series on how to do that.
Okay, great. Here's someone asking, can you describe the level of technology in your classroom, Richard? For example, how many computers do you have, LCD, etc.?
So in my school, every student has a Linux-based netbook, and because it is Linux-based and they are netbooks, we don't download a whole lot of software onto the computers. So almost everything is web-based that the students do. So like I said, every student has a Linux-based netbook, and as far as other technology, there's LCD projectors in every classroom.
Okay. There's a question that came through. I'm not sure I have all of this, but you had referenced, I wasn't sure if it was a specific library website portal.
Yep, probably Open Library.
Oh, was that hard, huh? Open Library.
Yep, and let me bring that back up here. Yeah, the Open Library, which is actually part of the Internet Archive. And that was on slide 14. Yeah, the Open Library.
All right. People are asking, too, about mobile capabilities. Have you created mobile learning content? If so, what tools did you use?
Yeah, the only tool that I've used for making mobile-specific applications, other than the EduCreations and Show Me app for the iPad, is the Android App Inventor. The Android App Inventor was supported by Google for quite a while, and then abandoned by Google last summer, and has recently been relaunched and is now supported by a group at MIT. What I like about the Android App Inventor is that students learn a little bit of programming along the way while they're developing all kinds of content, and it sounds a little bit daunting at first to create an app, to create an Android app, but it's actually a fairly straightforward drag and drop process. It's a bit like Scratch, which is a tool for teaching basic programming and basic if-then logic. And so I've played around with that a little bit, and I have high hopes for it in the future now that it's being fully supported.
Okay. All right. We got questions coming in now, so we've got, let's say, about 6 minutes left. How do you handle the changeable nature of the web and avoiding dead links for writing articles that include links?
Well, for myself on my own blog, it's an ongoing battle of updating, verifying the links will work. In the classroom, for the most part, it's when I'm evaluating something that a student turned in, the link has to be valid at the time that they turn it in. And just because a site goes dead after the fact isn't something I necessarily will hold against the student. They don't have control over whether or not a service doesn't pay its hosting fee.
Okay. And I imagine high school students, being kind of who they are, if something doesn't work, I'm sure they let you know pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's there's no shortage of Mr. Byrne, this doesn't work.
All right, here's another question. With all these tools being online, which is the most secure method or site for posting videos?
Well, that comes down to how are you going to share it? I mean, in YouTube there is a private sharing option. The problem with that is, if I label a video as private but I share it directly with you, Greg, you can then share it to anyone else in the world. So you do have to keep that in mind. One of the things I like about Next Vista is that all the videos are reviewed by one of 5 people that work for Next Vista, who are all teachers, by the way, for not only the content itself, to make sure there's something inappropriate, but also to make sure that the message is accurate when it's shared.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, there are other services on the web that do offer private video sharing. Kincast, Kinkast, Kincast.com offers private sharing of video, but it's quite limited in that after 30 days your video disappears if you don't access it again.
All right. Here's a couple of questions that I'm going to group. How does the parent community accept the lack of physical textbook in your class? Do you have to convince them? And then how are students reacting to all of this? Do they have enough time to do all the work?
So 2 good questions. Number one, the students don't miss the textbooks at all. Lugging around that 15-pound monster is not something that they miss. And we haven't totally eliminated textbooks. We still have them in our school. They're in our classrooms. And if there's a parent that says, I want a copy of the textbook, I want my student to have a copy of the textbook, we do lend them out. But I would say this past fall, when I started my class, I had two kids who said they wanted a physical textbook out of 100, and I think I had 107 at the beginning of the year. So it's a very, very small number. So that's how we've handled it. Is if there is a parent that says, yeah, I want a textbook, we still give them out.
Okay.
Granted, they're 1999 copyright date, so they're a little bit dated.
We've got about a couple of minutes here, Richard. Let's see. Here's a question. Do you use LMS, Learning Management System, like Moodle in your classroom?
I don't. My learning management system has been Blogger for the last 6 years now. That's where I've put all of our content. We have a district-wide. We use a service called Infinite Campus for things like grades and attendance rosters and that sort of information. And there's a portal element to that that students can use and parents can use to sign in to see their assignments and see grades, but it doesn't host things like video or images or anything like that. It's simply, this is the assignment and this is your grade on it.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to take over the screen, Richard. If you.
All right.
Okay. All right, folks. Thank you for attending. We know your time is valuable, so we really appreciate your decision to spend some time with us this afternoon. You will receive a brief 8-item evaluation via email. Your feedback is very important to us, so we hope you'll complete it. I want you to look for our in-person workshop with Articulate's Tom Kuhlman here in Baltimore on June 27th. The topic is Building Engaging E-Learning. Until then, this is Greg Williams for the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.